The road to Hollow's Edge was long and broken, curling like a black ribbon through the mountains. When I came upon the village, my car's fuel gauge was hovering near empty, and the mist hung so thick it felt alive. The sign welcoming me was half-rotted, its paint eaten away by rain and time. Only one word remained legible: Hollow. I don't remember how I'd found the place. My GPS had glitched hours ago, the maps twisting into digital nonsense. But the night was closing in, and Hollow was the only sign of human life for miles. The first thing I noticed was the quiet. No dogs. No laughter. No sound at all, except the soft drip of rain from the trees. The inn stood at the far end of the main street, a narrow, three-story building leaning against itself. A woman in her 60s opened the door before I could even knock. Her face was lined, but her eyes were sharp, like glass catching moonlight. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "I just need gas," I replied, my voice hoarse. "And a place to stay, maybe." Her expression flickered. Some thought she almost voiced, but swallowed instead. Finally, she stepped aside. "Come in. You can stay the night, but leave by morning." The lobby was clean, almost obsessively so. Polished, wood flickering candles. Old portraits of smiling faces hung on the walls, men, women, and children dressed in century-old clothing. I realized after a moment that all the portraits stopped at the same point in time. 1937. I tried to break the silence. Big families back then. The woman's lips thinned into a tight line. "We had, many blessings once." I wanted to ask what she meant, but the look in her eyes, that brittle, fearful shimmer, warned me not to. That night, from my room upstairs, I heard something, a low humming that came from beneath the floorboards. Voices, many of them, rising and falling together in a slow, rhythmic chant. It was mournful, like a funeral lullaby, and it went on for hours. At dawn, I saw people gathering outside. The entire village was in the square, maybe 30 souls, all dressed in black. Their faces were calm, almost serene, but every one of them looked too young for their age. The woman from the inn, who must have been in her 60s, looked barely 40 now under the pale sunlight. At the center of the square stood a stone well, covered with strange carving spirals, teeth, hands. Around it were long tables set for a feast. I caught the scent of meat roasting somewhere unseen, and beneath it, something else, something sweet and utterly wrong. I found the church that afternoon, though. It didn't look like any church I'd ever seen. Its steeple had crumbled, and inside, the pews were covered in dust. The only thing that seemed untouched was the altar, carved from black stone, slick as if it had been recently oiled. A man knelt before it, whispering. When he noticed me, he smiled a tight, joyless smile. "You're the outsider," he said. "The road brought you here." I nodded slowly. "What's going on in this place?" The man's eyes gleamed. "You'll see tonight. It's the feast day." My skin crawled. "Feast of what?" The man's smile widened too wide. "Of the Hollow." He turned back toward the altar, running his hands across it with reverence. "When the hunger came, we made a pact. We were starving. The war had taken everything, our crops, our sons, our faith. So we called to something older. Eat promise that we'd never starve again." He looked back over his shoulder, his eyes shining like wet stones, and it kept its promise. I didn't have to ask what the hunger had been for. I already knew. The silence of the town, the absence of laughter, the empty schoolhouse I'd passed, its windows shattered and toys scattered like bones. This place hadn't seen a child in generations. That night, the bells rang. I crept down the stairs. The inn was empty. Every door stood open. The candles flickered with the movement of wind or breath. I followed the noise to the square. The villagers stood around the well, hands joined, faces lifted. The humming began again, low and unified, vibrating through the air. Something moved in the dark water below the stone lip of the well. The air turned cold. That terrible sweetness rose again. And from the shadows behind the tables came figures carrying covered trays. I thought, asterisk, please. Let it be animals. Let it be anything else. Asterisk. The claws were lifted. What lay beneath was pale, small, and unmistakable. Porcelain dolls, dozens of them, each carved with unsettling precision, and each one had a name burned into its chest. The villagers began to eat. They didn't touch the dolls. They touched the air above them, fingers trembling, mouths moving as though tasting something invisible. Primera basqueda y baile, rising in my throat. Then the woman from the inn turned her head. Her eyes were black pits. Her voice was soft, almost kind. You shouldn't have stayed. David. The hollow remembers the hungry. The ground shook. The well began to glow faintly, the carvings lighting up like veins filled with fire. From its depths, a sound rose wet, childlike laughter that echoed far too long. Something climbed out. It wasn't human. Not anymore. It was a shape of many faces, small and pale, pressed together, whispering, crying, singing. I ran. I awoke on the roadside, my car door open, engine running. The village was gone, nothing but mist and forest where Hollow's Edge should have been. When I looked in the mirror, I noticed a smudge on my cheek. I wiped it, but it didn't come off. It was a handprint, small, child-sized, burned into my skin like a brand. And in the distance, just before the fog swallowed the road behind me, I heard a sound faint, almost tender. A lullaby. Months later, I returned to the area with police. They found nothing, no town, no records, no ruins, only an overgrown valley and a dried-up, well covered in carvings. But one of the officers, while brushing away vines from the stone, found something carved at the base fresh and new. It read, David, the next feast. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more chills. Stay safe out there.